What's happening? This is Everdon, and welcome to another episode of Beats for Breakfast. Today, I am joined by a very special guest. If you know anything about fighting games, you know anything about great JRPGs, or just good music in general, then you probably know about my dude, GK. If you don't know him, give a warm welcome to GK. What's going on, my dude?
What up? What up? What's up, man? Thank you for having me, man. Thank you.
Man, anytime, bro. Thank you for coming on at really short notice. I saw you talk about video games, and I saw you got your music out. Then I saw your website, and I was like, yo, this man is a real content creator. And you know what? It would be wrong of me not to have you on the show at some point. So I definitely am glad that you accepted my invitation. But for the people who do not know who you are, who is GK?
GK is a content creator, a product creator. I like to say I just like to create worlds basically. So I do whatever it takes to get my ideas across or my vision across to people. So it's confusing because I do a lot of things. I make music. I design, paint custom controllers. You know what I mean? I do random experimental visual things like that. So it's just I'm just an all around creative type of guy. So
Nice. You mentioned that you make music. How long have you been making music for, man?
So actually I've been making music for it's about to be 10 years seriously. So I've made music before that, but it wasn't I wasn't but I like to say for seriously I've been doing it for now literally a decade. And that funny enough, that's what I was known for first, was music. But different things have happened in terms of my idea of what it means to be an artist on the internet in this era. So a lot of changes and shifts have happened in terms of what I'm known more for now, or what I choose to focus on or put at the forefront, so it's a weird thing, but yeah, officially for 10 years.
Wow. It's funny you said that because I think we're on the same page per se. I want to say seriously, if not for me myself, it's been about, I want to say 12 years seriously. More so, no, 10 years. Because I did make music for other people, but I didn't sell my first beat until 2010, actually.
Right.
So, yeah, it was, 10 years on my end as well, actually. But I would say about over 15 years I've been doing music. And it's I resonate well with understanding what does it mean to be a solo artist. It's, even when you get placements, semi-major placements, you work with people who are higher profile people that everyone knows, but it's after a while, it's as you grow, as you mature in life, it's so does your art and your craft, and you start to see your craft differently. And I had to take a hiatus.
Yeah,
huge hiatus. And I'm just now starting to get back into it. So I definitely relate to your sentiments when it comes to music, man.
Yeah, 100.
But we're gonna get back towards the music question because it's funny that you said something. I actually gonna ask you about that later on in the interview, but kind of for the introduction and everything, I see that you're into gaming and everything, and I was actually curious, what game did it for you? What was the game that made you say that this is it? I have to play more video games. I have to play more of this or games like this.
Man, real talk, it on some romantic wait, can we curse? No. Is it okay? Oh yeah, YouTube monetization and all that.
Cool.
Yeah, so the first game I ever played was Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on the Genesis.
Bruh.
And to be 100% honest, I know a lot of people don't say this, like, oh, my first game was like the game that made me fall in love with video games. But that first time I played Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on the Genesis was actually when I was like, okay, I need more of this. Like, I couldn't even stop, you know. So it really was clean cut movie script. Like, oh, the first time I laid eyes on it, it happened.
I get you. Okay, so for me, it's similar actually.
Yeah.
My older brother, he had the Genesis, so it's like it was Sonic 1. And then I remember we got Sonic 2. In fact, we got the Sonic 2 not for resale box, just to show you, to give a little glimpse on how old it was, how long it's been. But from there, my first games weren't even on a console that was my own. My first games, I mentioned in the previous interview, were Quackshot and Hyperstone Heist, Ninja Turtles, for the Genesis. So, but those Sonic games, bro, I don't know what was in them. It's like, I didn't have the Nintendo experience, even though I like a whole bunch of Nintendo content now. I didn't get into Nintendo until I was like, what, 5 or 6 years old, or 7.
Interesting.
It's like Genesis was it for me, so I get it. I totally get it, man. But
no,
go ahead.
Low key, low key, man. I don't know. I just got weird, like, theories, I guess, about, or observations about where various people start in gaming, or and things like that. And I don't know, I feel like a lot of black people lean towards the Genesis a little more, but this just my like random observation. Like okay, like I know a couple who had the SNES, but from what I hear, anyone who grew up like early, who was born to have a Genesis and choose between them, like, it was only a couple of people I knew with the SNES, you know what I'm saying? Like, but I don't know, conspiracy theory, Joe,
I got the SNES because that was my first console. Like, the first console I played was Genesis. But my mother, like, she was able to get me Super NES for my birthday.
Oh, okay, word.
And I remembered what I got was the Super Mario World and Super Mario All-Stars pack with the Super NES, and I still remember it to this day. She got it from this super center called Costco. It's like a retail wholesale place.
I used to work at Costco.
Okay, cool. So so it makes it easy. So back when Costco first started selling video games, and that's how I got my first Super NES. And Sonic did it for me a little bit. Like, it got me interested in video games, but the game that hooked me in the video games. Mario World was cool. Mario All-Stars was cool. But the game to this day I have the most fond memories of was Super Mario RPG for the Super NES. Interesting. Okay,
so but go on with your story. Were you gonna continue? Or
I was gonna say that Super NES, like Mario RPG for the Super NES, is what got me into Final Fantasy VII. So that's why it's like I was a Genesis kid growing up, but Nintendo did. Like,
they got you.
They got my love for RPGs because of that game.
Interesting. So I do want to add, for me, even though Sonic was like the first game that made me fall in love with like gaming.
Yeah.
The first game that made me fall in love with gaming. So the games that made me that formed, I guess, like the types of games I will play moving forward were like on the PS1, So like I feel like my how earlier we were talking about when I started taking music like seriously as like a career type thing, even though I had been writing before that, right? So like the same thing with gaming, like Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was the phase where, like, I guess I would compare it to when you first start rapping and like you're pretty much just like in the lunchroom with your friends, like being on the table, and you're doing it consistently. You know what I'm saying? You're doing it consistently, but you don't realize, you know, the type of rapper you're gonna be until you get to a certain point. So for me, like, I didn't realize the type of gamer I would be until like I got to PlayStation 1 and I played games like Digimon World, or like this game called Thousand Arms by Atlas. You know, it was like that was my first JRPG. So like, yeah, PS1, a lot of games on there. Mega Man Legends, which I'm replaying right now. Like,
wow,
yeah.
okay.
So those were the games that informed like the type of gamer I am right now. So like, yeah.
I would say
I hear you.
I said the PS1 for me got me into fighting games more often. Like, I was
What?
somewhat into fighting games with Super NES when I got Street Fighter Alpha 2, and I played Street Fighter the next generation with on Genesis when they first introduced Cammy, T-Hawk, Fei Long, and DJ. But the fighting game that got me into playing more fighting games like intensely was Tekken 3.
Okay, yeah. I had Tekken 3. Let me say this: I didn't own Tekken 3, but like, you remember those PS1 like
Oh
demo
yeah,
discs?
the demo disc came in the mail. In fact, remember the Pizza Hut ones?
Yeah, that's the one. Okay, yeah. So that's the one. I just played Tekken 3 on that. You could only play with Eddie and Paul, and like I just played that demo. Like, that's my Tekken 3. And then the arcades, you know, there was a skating rink where we had like Tekken 3 in the arcades. So like that was my experience with Tekken. You know, so
Nice.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you.
So yeah, like fighting games for me, it's like I can get competitive. I'm not the best at them. I will be the first to admit that. But I am the best person to talk trash during fighting games.
Oh, word.
Hey, man. I'll talk trash during fighting games, whether it's Smash, whether it's Mortal Kombat, whether it's Tekken. I'm going to, because my whole thing is, if I can get in your head, I can win. That's just how I see it. If I can get in your head, I win. So, but I did want to ask because I did catch a tweet where you started bringing back your music, and I noticed that you did take a hiatus yourself.
100. I've taken several, but yeah.
And I wanted to ask, what made you come back this time and start creating art more publicly again?
Okay, so for one, I don't want to get like overly like serious or deep with it, but as an artist, there's this weird balance artists in particular have to deal with, where you got to think about you know, day-to-day like survival, you know what I mean? Like, okay, like paying the bills, or thinking about what aspect of what you do is more lucrative for you, right? So even if you want to get into even if you want to just stay within music, right? Like the dilemma between making music that's gonna sell and make you more money, or doing things that are going to make you more money within music, or doing things that like you're actually like 100% passionate about, and that doing things that are fulfilling to you, right? So but that wasn't my personal dilemma, but I'm using that as an example of like how we try to balance like survival and like creating, right? So my hiatus specifically was about taking time out to find out, like, okay, what aspect of what I do, especially because talking about how like I've been making music for 10 years, music has changed within that time, right? So like there's been like there wasn't streaming when I started, you know, there wasn't streaming. CDs were still here, but they were kind of dying out. Downloads were here, but they were kind of just new. So I'm one of those art blogs were still like a thing,
You
right?
from the blog
Like
era too?
I'm from the blog era, right? So like Two Dope
Bruh.
Boys, like and all that. So like
Hold up.
I came in at a time where like
You was
I'm
in
one of the
2000 you was in 2010, 2012 era too?
exactly, yeah,
Bruh.
yeah. So like I came in at a time where like things were kind of transitioning, right? Um, so even outside of all of the things I stated with downloads and blogs, right? I was like really on like the YouTube tip, right? So you know how we have this lo-fi chill beats to study to scene right now? That is kind of like an evolution of the era I came from, where like we were making like YouTube bumps for Adult Swim bumps on YouTube, right?
I'm
So
bugging right now, dog.
yeah, so like it's a lot there's a lot of transitional things that I had to like deal with, and I feel like a lot of artists who came up in my era and didn't necessarily like pop off on the mainstream level, we're kind of in this weird purgatory of like, okay, like we invested a lot into this previous era and we're dealing with the transitions of the new era. So we're like this weird middle point that a lot of artists didn't have to deal with, So basically I had to take time out to adjust to this new era and figure out where I fit in.
Yo.
So that was my hiatus. That's what my hiatus was about,
Time out. Like
Yeah.
there's so many questions. It's funny. One of the first episodes, like the third episode, me and the homie, he's from the blog era too. You probably heard of him. Probably he's on Two Dope Boys himself, Lyricist.
Yeah, I know about Lyrics. Is he from Chicago? No, he's not from Chicago.
DC.
No. DC, yeah.
DC, that's the homie. Like he was on episode 3, so it's like same issue with the blog era. I was on Two Dope Boys, as putting him on beat tapes. I was on Not Quite Millionaires at one point. 2012, I made my first trip out to A3C.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So it's like in that time, because I'm originally from New York, so it's like I was very familiar with the iHeart Dilla crew. So it's like so many blogs in that period, and it's like it's crazy because back in 2012, I'm not here to like in any way to clout chase and everything, so I'll tell you this when we go on break or who was actually with. But I actually have a song credit under my old producer name with 3 Legends, and it blew my mind that ever happened. It just came from back in that point. If you wasn't on the blog era, and if you wasn't on the blogs, you was heavily prominent on Twitter.
Yeah,
as a producer or as an artist, and it's like there's so many people. Back then, like dang, there was so many people in the blog era, and it's so crazy. It's like you said, a lot of them like kind of like fell off. It's like
it was because and it's not necessarily their fault, right? Like it was a weird transitional period. We got kind of caught in that transition.
We did.
So a lot of our investment from that era, even if you think about the bigger artists, right? Like Wiz or Wale or like Currency, all those people.
Even J. Cole. J. Cole made a weird. He made like the best transition out of all of us.
Yeah, and even Drake, right? A lot of their mixtapes aren't accessible now because they also came from like that weird transitional period where a lot of our investment from that time is lost now because like a lot of the avenues that we were releasing through and a lot of our strategies from that era aren't relevant anymore, right? So we're having to deal with that. The people who kind of like got serious in 2010, like you said, 2010, between that and like 2013, 12-ish, right? But then a lot of inversely, a lot of the people on who came up around, I want to say 2015, 2016, they kind of came at a time where things were more stable, right? So a lot of their work isn't being lost right now because it's like, okay, like how things were, how you generally move around 2016, 2017 is generally how you generally are doing the same thing with a couple changes, you know, but it's not like this crazy drastic, you know, difference between how you work 4 years ago and how you work now, you know. So a lot of people who came, it is about timing, you know. It is when we really boil it all down, you know.
It's crazy because I feel like what you're saying is correct, but I feel like what also played a big role is certain bigger name artists. They did some pretty iconic stuff in that period that just changed the game. Like you had J. Cole, who came out with Friday Night Lights, which is arguably one of the best mixtapes I've ever heard.
Word.
Then you had Nipsey Hussle, who came out with the Compton mixtape.
Yeah,
where he did that legendary first edition where he sold out in 2 days.
Oh yeah, was that the $100?
Yeah. He made 100 stacks in 2 days.
Word, yeah.
So and then we can't forget in 2014, closer to 2015 actually, when Kendrick, he changed. I think what he did in 2015, leaking his own album. Leaking his own album and making all these albums available for free on Spotify. I think that changed the game in itself for the mixtape game, because at that point it's like you got big names releasing their stuff for free now. So it's like
go
ahead.
It really did change like how and it's still changing, right? Like there's a lot of things happening now with people debating about, like, not necessarily debating with each other, but with themselves about like what is the best way to release music and just content in general, you know. Like music videos now aren't even as like big a video as they were before, you know. So yeah, it's just like that was my hiatus, was like me trying to strategize, think about, make plans, learn new things in order to, I guess, redefine the type of artist I want to be, because I also don't look at myself as just like I said at the beginning, I create worlds for people, right? So whether that be through what I do with like controllers or what I do with music, I'm trying to create like an overall, like, okay, this is my vision of, like, you know, things that I want to see out in the world, right? So
question, do you do your own album artwork?
Now I do, yeah. So I've done my own album artwork for like anything you see from 2017 to now. That's pretty much all me, you know. And even before that, a lot of it is like me collaborating with anyone who did it before that time too. So yeah, I do most of my now at this point I do most of my album artwork. Yeah,
I have too. From like my last one that I made a, it's funny, this is fun fact for those of you who don't know about Beats for Breakfast. Beats for Breakfast, you know, there's a lot. We talk about, you know, gaming, we talk about music, we talk about business, and that's mainly because, you know, if anyone who makes beats, you understand that making beats is a collaboration of sounds to make one song, right? So I figured Beats for Breakfast is a collaboration of topics for a perfect discussion. That's why I called it Beats for Breakfast. But a little Easter egg for Beats for Breakfast is that was the first beat tape that I've ever made that I put out for the public to consume. So I had an album called Beats for Breakfast, and then I came out, the very last album that I came out with under that name was Beats for Lunch. And if people search for it, you can still find it to this day.
Word.
But we're gonna go ahead to our first commercial break, guys. Make sure you guys, if you are not already, make sure you guys follow this man on Twitter and go ahead and check out his website as you listen to some tunes that he's created as we come back. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Hope you guys enjoyed some of GK's music. Speaking of music, now GK, people know that you rap. You used to rap. You do things, all things creative. You make worlds for people, and you even make beats. But I wanted to ask something because this is something that even though I know people who make their own beats, sometimes they don't solely make their own beats. Are you one of those artists? Do you only make your own beats, or do you outsource and look for the best beats that may fit the vision you have for a song?
No, yeah, I definitely don't solely make my own beats. I'd say it's like 90% of my beats are mine, and if I don't, if it's not mine, you'll know, right? I'll put it's a collaboration with somebody. By the way, I still rap. By the way, just to make that, I still do rap. I still am a vocal artist as well. But like, I don't know. I think some people would put me in like a auteur or like someone who's like in the. I don't think people would see me as like a rapper first necessarily. They just say like, oh, he's a guy who makes music. But anyway, like, yeah, I take beats from other people. It's not like, even though I've kind of moved on from like the mentality of creating like projects or like albums or EPs or whatever, like I don't have any plans to do that again right now. But like, yeah, when I did make projects and stuff like that, and bodies of work, it was mainly me making the beats. Like I said, 90%. And then if I hear a beat from someone else, because I'm always around people and it happens to fit the vision, yeah, like I'll come in, and that also gives me more time to do vocal stuff and like be more of a rapper, right? Instead of like, having to deal with all aspects of the whatever song we're working on. So yeah, I it's whatever, Nice. Like I definitely take it from other people. Yeah,
almost like a pet peeve that I have as a producer is somebody who just wants all of the music that I have, but they don't consider if their voice is complementary to my beats.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
To me, it's like a sale doesn't matter to me because my name is still attached to that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, don't just take a beat because you think it sounds nice. Like, literally analyze this beat. Does this beat fit my voice? Um, uh, good. At one point, we was like really cool. Like, she's a really good artist.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the realest things that she told me was, it's like, your beats are good, really good, but they don't really fit my voice.
Yeah.
And I respected that response so much because she was the first person to ever tell me that. So, and she could rap, like,
Mm-hmm.
well known for rapping in Brooklyn. That's what I'm gonna say. She could really
Yeah,
rap.
yeah.
So, I would say, I want to. Well, what I would want to ask you though is kind of like from you said in the beginning. I wanted to ask you more about being a solo artist. You expressed that this is a different period that we're in when it comes to music. It's almost like a new musical renaissance because never before has music been so easily available, especially major music, where you can get things almost for free, and things are not really based on sales, but they're based on plays. So,
Yeah.
because of websites like SoundCloud, Bandcamp, if you're from this era, SoundClick,
Oh
um,
gosh. Yo man. The
um,
site's still up.
it is. I know. But if
Mm-hmm.
you're from these eras of where you could easily share your music, my question to you is, how do you feel as a solo artist having this much freedom to put out your music at any given point?
It's good. It especially works for I always like to say when I'm having these conversations with other artists, like for me in particular, someone who's always been a DIY type of dude. I've never had a team. Um I've never really had like a lot of structure behind me, or any kind of machine or
Hmm.
anything like that. I've never had that. So for me, everything I've done has always been on some very ghetto, like, yo, I'm in the mood to put this out right now. So like I just want to put this out. There's no strategy, there's no waiting, there's no, okay, I gotta talk to this guy before I put this out. We gotta confirm with these people if we can do this before we get this. No, I'm not that kind of artist. I was I was the type of guy who was doing what they call Beyonce releases now. Like, that's how I was putting out music in 2010, 2011. There was no, yo,
I
check,
I
you
dig it.
know, so I like it. I like that. Like, it's easier to put out stuff. The only thing is that we are now in a time though where like, I guess it's getting harder for people to like sift through everything, because everybody's putting out stuff. So like, people have two options. It's either to like, and honestly, it's not hard to the same tools that were available to look for music back then and during like the early 2010s, same tools that are available now. But I guess because there's so much music, a lot of people are intimidated. So there's like this kind of this darker side to all of it where like you have people now who really don't bother, and they just need curation. So they're like, okay, like um I'm just gonna go to this Spotify playlist and that's all I'm listening to today. I'm not gonna go out of my way to look for new artists, or like, that is the one thing I did like about the blog era, is that I think it did encourage people to kind of look for things, and to like discover things. But discovery is like based now on like curation or algorithms, so it's like it is a good and a bad side to all of it.
Nah, I dig it. To actually supplement what you're saying, two very big content creators, well-known content creators, have given some pieces of advice that I'm going to actually not only share with you, but for anyone listening to this who is a artist or who is a creative entrepreneur, in a sense, or just a creative artist in general. One, Roberto Blake said something that I really commend him on lately. As one of his latest videos, he stated this point. He stated that there is a lot of saturation in the craft that you may be going in, but there's literally almost no competition in going the extra mile. Literally going the extra mile is what most people don't do.
That's true.
Most people will do what's expected. Most people won't go up and beyond.
Yep.
So I'm going to say artists these days need to go up and beyond. And a way to go up and beyond, which is something that Gary Vee actually gave this advice, and I felt that it was brilliant, and I'm going to share it with you guys. So I'm quoting, this is the second time I'm quoting Roberto Blake and Gary Vee, I noticed. But I'm going to go ahead and give Gary Vee credit for saying he suggested for up-and-coming artists, whether you are just a producer who makes music or you are a vocal artist, one of the things that you can do is actually hit up these Instagram or these TikTok comedians or whatever they use and actually work out a deal with them where you could have your music play in their videos. That is another way of getting exposed to where people are like, oh, what's this? And it's because people are already there for that person. They are going to hear you by default, which puts you in a better position to have more exposure. That's something that if you are someone who does music, consider that. And honestly, if it costs you a little bit, think about it this way. And for those of you who are watching, there's a good chance you're into music. There's a good chance that you're into video games kind of seriously. If you can spend $300, $400, $500 on a new console, you could spend about $150 or $200 on a new microphone. You can spend about the same amount to get some exposure that's going to actually help your career and help get more eyes on your content. Because to what you said, there are algorithms now. What helps algorithms are influx of traffic to your page. If there is an influx of traffic of new people coming to your page, the algorithm sees that and they start pushing you out to newer and other people onto the explore page and start telling people, hey, you should probably go check out this person. So for those of you who are being creative, that is my advice to you guys. I want to go in and just ask you another question, because it's like we've talked heavily on music, but this is something that I'm pretty sure it did, but I want to see how. Has gaming influenced your music?
Yeah, that's funny you asked that, because this I know this is coming out in March, but you're gonna see something coming this week that's gonna tie everything together. About how I came into like everything that I do now, right? But yeah, let's just say like when I first came into making music, I definitely was one of the early people combining those two worlds, not necessarily on like a big scale, but like in terms of like
you wasn't no shade, but you wasn't doing it like the Charles Hamilton way. You was doing it the Lupe way.
Charles Hamilton was fire though, but no, I know what you're trying to say. Like, no, it wasn't very overt.
It wasn't gimmicky. That's what I was trying
to say. It wasn't gimmicky. It was music first, right?
You get it. That's why I say it wasn't a shot. I'm so glad you get it, because that could have easily came off as a shot.
No. Yeah. It was on some music first type stuff.
Cool.
But also, let me say this aesthetically, because I create worlds for people. So like, I'm not just looking at the song. I'm looking at like how everything looks. I'm looking at the art. I'm looking at like how I release it. Everything, like the everything in tandem or everything together is like how I view my art. So aesthetically, that's it definitely has influenced like how I visually present myself
Got it.
people, right? So but also sound wise, right? Like there's a lot of I mean, I don't want to get too into nerdy, like, you know, producer talk, but a lot of sounds that like informed what I do in terms of like how my music like sonically appeals to people, right? So there's a lot of like
Got it.
a lot of digital like weird Sega Genesis influenced type stuff, you know, in terms of like the chords I use. Like I listen to a lot of like Sonic 3 or like a lot of Mega Man or like because I don't sample. So like a lot of this is like theory stuff, right? Like of me
Oh,
listening to these songs and being like, okay, like these are the chords they used here. Okay, why do these chords give me this feeling? And then like, you know, trying to translate that into music and into my harmonies and stuff like that. So
nice.
a lot of RPG chords influence like, you know, my harmonies and stuff like that. So or my melodies. So gaming is a big influence on like, you know, everything I do, but on a very like not on a very surface level, but sometimes on a surface
But
level,
yeah,
but a lot of times not. You know, it just depends.
for you, it was harmonies that got me with game. That got you with game. For me, it was the grooves.
Yeah.
The grooves really got me. It's funny that you mentioned Sonic 3, but
Mm-hmm.
Marvel Garden, excuse me, Marble Garden Act 2,
Mm-hmm.
where it's almost like Marble Garden Act 2, it's like in my head, the groove of it, especially throw some swing on some of the instruments, it
Yeah.
gives like a summer cookout feel.
Oh yeah. No, Sonic 3 is like
Amazing.
very top 5 soundtracks for me.
It's number one for me. It's easily number one
yeah,
for me.
yeah. It's up there. Like, but that soundtrack was very there's also even like, you know,
Say
melodies
it.
and harmonies I've come up with that I was like, wow, like how did I come up with that? Like, and you know, and you don't know where it comes from on a subconscious level, and then like you go back and listen to these soundtracks that we grew up with, and then you're like, oh,
That can
I didn't even know that's where I heard that. But like, yeah, that's where I heard that. Like, is that came from that. So yeah, it's crazy how like all of those things can influence you.
It's funny because there was a producer who made a beat tape, and I heard the joint, and I'm like, "Yo, this is you sampled Donkey Kong Country." He said, "Nah, it's not a sample, but I definitely hear it now." And it's like I kind of
Yeah.
wish it was a sample. I was like, "Oh
Yeah.
shit!" So
Yeah.
I get it, man. I get it. But in terms of with gaming and music, do you still feel like to this day, do you still feel like gaming music today influences you, or is it more so retro gaming that influences you?
You know, what do you mean as far as like
Like the older games? Is it still like the older games back on Genesis, Super NES, or do games of this era like inspire you?
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're
Yeah.
saying. So, that's a good question.
I'll say only two for me. To give you some help, two for me kind of did inspire me. I will be upfront and say Octopath Traveler's music was inspiring, and so was Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Okay.
Well, actually, no, I'm sorry. And you're gonna you know what soundtrack I'm gonna say about Xenoblade. Not Xenoblade Chronicles 2 so much, but Xenoblade Chronicles X. That soundtrack.
Yo. So actually, so if we're talking about soundtracks, right?
Yes.
As far as like musically,
Yes.
I don't the most recent soundtrack that I'd say has inspired me, and I say recent meaning like this is the earliest thing I can think about that's from like the modern era. But Persona 4, man. That soundtrack really, Persona 4 specifically. I'm not talking about Persona in general, just Persona 4, because I want to be specific about
Not
that.
5 either?
You said what?
Not even 5?
I mean 5, like I've heard music like that before, so it was, you know, 5 was great soundtrack. It's a very good soundtrack, but like it was good in a way that was like very derivative of things that, like, you know, I was already pretty familiar with, right? So Persona 4 in particular was a moment for me where I was like, oh, what's this? You know, it was more of that for me, of like, oh, okay. Like, and I feel like, and that's funny that you say that, because now I'm kind of having an epiphany moment right now as I'm talking to you, of like, Persona 4 did kind of contribute to, because I feel like my music has gotten very bright over time. Like, it's become way more spring, summer, like yellow, pink, you know, very like bright, not necessarily happy, but just like peaceful. major chords, beautiful, pretty. My music very pretty, cute type stuff. So like, I feel like Persona 4 did kind of like start pushing me in that direction of like, oh, like your music doesn't necessarily have to be like foggy or misty or dark to be cool, or to your music can have a coolness to it. Like, it can, and I don't want to use the word edge, but it can have kind of like a cool factor to it and still be like bright. Because I feel like for some people, and for a while, and still for some people, when you start thinking about those brighter music, to them that translates as like corny, you know what I mean? Like, but I feel like Persona 4 was one of the first steps for me to where I was like, oh, okay, this is like bright, but it still sounds cool. Like, it's not like lame or corny or like cheesy, you know? So yeah, that was it for me. It's funny enough, you know.
I think a lot of people were played music, because you mentioned a lot of people played a lot of their first songs in the minor scale, and it's almost like as they've grown, it's like the transition to, you know, playing things in the major scale, and like using chords, you know, that support, you know, keys in that major scale. It really makes a difference, because even lo-fi music in many cases, even though it's cool sounding, a lot of that stuff is played in major. People don't understand that. To the sounds, like, and that's mainly because the sounds of the Rhodes piano is just legendary to me. I love, like, those Rhodes piano sounds are legendary to me. So it's like, if you know how to use the proper scales, you're not I'm trying not to have to use overly producer talk myself right now.
Yeah.
But it's all about, you know, understanding. If you're playing music electronically, understanding it's like playing things out to sound realistic, and that's the problem I feel like a lot of producers have. Even I had it at one point. We make our stuff sound so robotic. You don't put velocity inside your hi-hats to make them sound like it's a real rhythm going.
Interestingly enough, I'm again, we're gonna try to keep the producer talk short, but like, because I know this isn't like an accessible like conversation for a lot of people, but like, interestingly enough, there is an art to making music that sounds more robotic. But I feel like what it is, the issue that you're speaking, part of the issue that you're speaking to, is that people do it unintentionally.
Exactly.
Right. So like someone that I think about a lot with what you're talking about, right? Like especially recently for me, my school, the school that I graduated from as like a music artist, I like to say like is more of like the Dilla school of thought, right? Because like
Hold up.
no, hold up. So there's I feel like there's two sides of like beat makers that made music on more more, they weren't using instruments, right? They were using like technology. So whether that be an MPC or like a keyboard, tracking things out, right? So there's the J Dilla school of thought, which is you use whatever like hardware you're using, but you use it in a way to make the music sound natural, right? And make it sound like it was made by a human, right? So that's the Dilla school of thought. And then there's the other school of thought, which I feel like I'm getting my master's in that right now, right? Which is like what I say, the Timbaland school of thought, which is like it is more robotic, but it is in a way that is natural to the hardware you're using, right? So because you understand that like this is what your laptop or your or you know, whatever your audio workstation is, you know, this is what it naturally wants to do. You learn it, you understand it, and then you let it do that, right? So you put all your snares on, like there's no swing on it. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like right on beat, and you lean into it, right? So when you listen to Timbaland beats, like it's a lot of drums, like just kind of going everywhere, and it's like, oh, like he's leaning into the fact that like this is what like his hardware wants to do. So like it sounds very robotic, but in an intentional way that is like, oh, this is what this is what like this modern era of hardware does, and like I'm gonna learn it and I'm gonna lean into that and create, and like that's gonna be what it is. I'm not gonna try to like make this sound like a drummer played it, or like I'm not gonna try to make this sound like a trumpet player played these things. I'm gonna make it sound so digital that like it's almost like you're going so far in that it's human.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? Because when you listen to Timbaland beats, he'll put in like these weird sounds. It's like that's not a sound that exists in nature. Like you can't, like there's no way this hi-hat can play at that speed or like do that naturally. So like it's like two schools of thought. But the thing you're speaking to, right, of like people not people not doing certain things to make their beats sound a certain way, right? I feel like that comes from them from not working with intention. So whether you want to add, like whether you want to not quantize your drums, or whether you want to quantize your drums so hard that like it sounds mechanical, like all of it has to be done with intention, so that like when the final product is done, it doesn't sound amateurish.
Yeah.
Or like you didn't know what you were doing, you know what I mean? Like, so I think that's really what it is. It's more about like creating with intention, so that like whatever you're making, it's like, oh, this is what he was trying to do. It's not like this sloppy thing, because there's some people, right, who do put I remember when Flying Lotus was like popping, when he was popping, right?
Yeah.
And like the moment you went to SoundCloud, you heard all these producers just like trying to like emulate that Flying Lotus sound, and like they were playing the drums all off beat, trying to be overly like, yeah, my drums aren't quantized, so like there's no groove to my beat. So now I'm like weird and experimental now, right, guys? And it's like, no, like there's an art to what Flying Lotus was doing too. Like there's intention behind it. He didn't just like throw stuff at the wall and say like, hey guys, now I'm weird and experimental. Like, no, there's a process to all of that. So I think some people try to emulate the final result instead of trying to learn the process, you know? And like that's the real issue, you know.
That I can relate to that because it's funny you mentioned the Dilla School of Thought, because that's actually one of my favorite producers. That's who I gained a lot of inspiration from when I was making beats. But in terms of being from his school of thought, I was, instead of the Timbaland School of Thought, I've been learning to get my master's in the Ninth Wonder School of Thought. And Ninth Wonder was more so a huge inspiration for me because at a time when Fruity Loops was looked at, or FL Studio rather, was looked at as a toy to a lot of people.
Yeah.
This dude was making hits. Like literally, he made a track for Jay-Z, and he made a few tracks for Jay-Z afterwards. After that one on the Black album, but it's like a lot of people don't necessarily see the importance that he has established, and that is putting the soul into your music. Like letting your music have real flavor, letting your music have the flavor, your stamp on it, your stamp of approval. And that's something that I learned more so from Ninth Wonder than I did from Dilla, because Dilla has something that was crazy, that you can play in a plethora of Dilla beats and they will not sound the same.
Right.
That was the crazy thing about Dilla. But with Ninth Wonder, it's like you knew from his drums this was a ninth beat. You knew from sample pitches, the way the sample cuts were, you knew that this was a ninth beat. So
his beats definitely had like a, because let me say this, I don't feel like, ooh, what was that? Okay, sorry, something happened on Google Hangouts, but it's cool.
Oh, you good?
No, yeah. Ninth Wonder wasn't necessarily innovative, but his beats had such a personality to them that it didn't, and that's another thing too that like I think some people, especially on the more experimental side of music, don't understand, is like there is a value in iteration and not necessarily like innovation, right? Exactly. So people think just because like something is iterative means that like, oh, this is like not artistic, or it doesn't have, like, I feel like Ninth Wonder, and I want to say, I could be wrong on this, but he's from like a Pete Rock lineage, right? I think I'm not sure who his influences were, but
I can see that.
I want to say he comes from like that lineage of like Pete Rock, but I could be wrong on that. But his beats have a personality to them where it's like, okay, this is like samples, you know, dusty drums, you know, certain like that mid-tempo hip hop, but he adds his quirks into it to where it's like, but this is specific to Ninth Wonder though.
Famous
like,
for drops.
Yeah.
Famous for drops.
Yes, you know, like it's, and I think I appreciate that from him, and that helped me be like, oh, okay, like it's not necessarily about like doing the most over the top like weird stuff. Like sometimes it's just about adding your personality to it, you know, or and like you said, adding your soul to it, of like, okay, like that's you. You know, that's not like immediately when you hear Ninth, man, you know that's him.
It's his beats.
Yeah, you know that. You know, it's off top, you know.
And it's like you want to have that signature with your beats. So it's
right.
Because once you have a sound in itself, no one can take that from you. That's the beautiful part. If someone tries to emulate it, they're always going to come short because they can't emulate you. So
it's a you thing.
Exactly.
It's not it's not like a formula necessarily to it. It's like a very like specific. Because I've heard people try to sound like Ninth Wonder, but you would have to really be there with him to see his whole process to be like,
absolutely.
Oh, there is certain things under the surface I didn't realize was going on that like made his beats sound like what they do. Even the way he mixes his beats, right, is like a certain way. You know, you don't have his presets. You don't have all of those things to like fully emulate it without it sounding like you're emulating. You know,
exactly.
So, but yeah, for sure, man. Ninth, man. A lot of I gotta say too, his I like the artists he chooses to work with too, because there's also an art to that, which I want to say I'm trash at, right? Like, you know, like that's one thing. That's my like that's one of my weaknesses, right? Of like you know, choosing how to collaborate with people like is a real, like you were saying before, like knowing what your voice works with and all that kind of stuff. That there's an art to that. Like that's not like something that comes naturally to everybody.
It is. I had to learn that myself.
So, So like Ninth is like from Little Brother to like Jean Grey, like Rhapsody, like even some of the stuff he did with Murs, like he's really good at like, yo, this is who will work over like you know, these beats, you know,
right.
Like very good at that.
But we're gonna go ahead and take one more commercial break. GK and I, we did not expect to go. We have to head off the music end, but we hope you guys find this entertaining and also helpful. For those of you who are creators and stuff, you ever been thought about making beats or whatnot, this is helpful for you guys. So stay tuned for this here commercial break. Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed more music from GK, and we're gonna just make this the lighter section of Beats for Breakfast. We're gonna talk about some gaming because I felt like we focus a lot on music, focus a lot on business, but we really haven't touched on gaming. And I know GK, you're into fighting games a lot, and I know you saw the EVO 2020 lineup. How do you feel about it, man?
What's in it again?
We got Smash,
Tekken, Soul Calibur,
6.
Under Night in Birth,
You got
Samurai Showdown. I'm remembering as I'm saying it. What was the surprise one? A Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Yep.
If I'm barely remembering it, it's probably just like it's just okay. Like it's nothing. How long I've been watching Evo? Since 2011.
You've been watching longer than me.
Yeah, 2011 is like, I think, when I like first got into like looking at Evo consistently.
I think 2015 was for me.
2003?
15 for me.
15. Oh, 15. Yeah. So like, so after a while, you're just like, okay, like, you know, I like the lineup, but after 10 plus years or 9 plus years watching it, especially as somebody who, I think the fighting game genre isn't as that people aren't into the fighting game genre in its totality. Like there isn't, people generally are into one thing, right? If you play Tekken, you generally like just play Tekken. Like if you play Smash, generally you just play Smash. You know what I'm saying? So I'd love to see like stuff like Gundam Versus, or like weird old fighters that, you know, like something like just to shake things up a little bit. I'm not saying they gotta fill the whole roster with like Arcana Heart and like Melty Blood and like Psychic Force 2012 or anything. Like I'm not saying like they gotta go, or like Rival School. I'm not saying they gotta go that hard with it, but
bring back Rival Schools, man.
Yeah, but just add in a little, just something to like keep people on their toes. Cause now the lineup announcement's not even really like, it's not keeping me on my toes anymore. It's like, okay, like this is generally what everybody's playing. So like,
you know what game would have did that? Tatsunoko versus Capcom. That would have did that.
That would Tatsunoko versus Capcom would have did that. Like, I gotta throw this in there. My brain is telling me don't say it, but yo, ARMS, if they had 1 year with ARMS,
do it.
Just 1 year with ARMS, just to be like hot, you know, and then you can even take it away the next year. I don't even care. Just to be like, yo, the fighting game genre is a very vast genre, and I think the lineup does a decent job of showing that, especially if you want to consider like they're trying to show what people play too. They don't want to just like throw in weird things just to throw in weird things, but they could do a better job of like surprising people.
I feel like ARMS was such a missed opportunity. Like I actually put in hours into ARMS.
Yeah,
and I could
cool
say,
game,
game.
And it had a scene. You know, a very small scene during that initial like you know, that initial period where people are like, you know, trying to get an idea or like see if they want to commit to it. You know, every fighting game goes through that, but yeah, I mean, it was cool. I'm glad Tekken is still there. I'm glad Ultimate is still there. Those games deserve to still be there.
Agreed.
So there's some games on there that I understand why they're there, but I'm not sure if like, I think this is like they don't have much longer. You know what I mean? Like I'm not sure how much longer Samurai Showdown is gonna be there. Maybe Soul Calibur definitely is probably on its last year.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I was gonna say, because it's like I wasn't even thinking about ARMS. Like I used to main Mechanica, and
I love Mechanica. You know, Max, man. We got to represent. Yeah.
I used to love using Mechanica. I would get so many, you know, wins. Like Ranked, I got before they increased the ranks. I was one away from being at the top ranked because mechanical was just that much fun for me to use.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because the thing about it is, it's like it's like you got to learn what arms work for you and know what your character has advantages with. I knew Mechanica could take a few hits like a tank, so I took advantage of that, and I would use like the Ice Dragon to start freezing people.
Oh,
And
okay. So you know, the ice drop. I hated that. I hated that thing, man.
I would
Like
use
I
that
hated
to
dealing with that.
I would use that
Yeah.
to my advantage, and then if you would dodge the Ice Dragon, then I would have the Fire Rings to follow up.
Oh, word, yo, man. They need to make an arms too. I have a theory about fighting games. Another theory for me. I have a theory about fighting games that the second entry
Mhm.
of fighting games is usually when the game finds its identity. It finds its true identity. Like, and the first one is usually just like the just a foundation for it eventually. So when you think about like, when did Marvel vs. Capcom blow up? On Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Street Fighter 2, Super Smash Brothers. It became competitive.
In Melee.
Melee, you know,
Mortal Kombat 2.
Soul
Yeah.
Calibur 2, Mortal Kombat, the second one. Like, it generally on the second game is
Street Fighter
when
2.
like,
Yeah, you're right actually.
yeah. So like, want arms. I want to see what an arms 2 would do, because I feel like if it follows that general trend of
Yo,
like,
you may have a point.
you know, you said what?
You may have a point. I'm thinking about it more and more now. You may have a point with that.
Yeah. That just one of my little theories that, like, you know, like I was like, huh, there's a pattern there. So like, they need to give that another shot, man. There's a lot of things they could do with that.
Speaking
You
of
know?
fighting games, and I
Mhm.
said this on a previous podcast or episode. I call this more of a show than a podcast. But I want to say I'm concerned with Smash Ultimate.
Mm-hmm.
I have a love and hate relationship with that game, but I feel like Smash Ultimate is in Marvel vs. Capcom 2 territory. And what I mean by that is, you have a game with such a large roster that is so huge, that is so widely renowned right now. Can you follow up?
Oh, can it follow up?
That's my concern. Like, are they going to keep this game just Ultimate, make this the last Smash Brothers game? Or are they going to try to make a new Smash Brothers when a new Nintendo console comes out? And that's my concern.
Well, I will say, I think they should make another one, but I will say, I think Smash is at that point that, what series can I can't even think of a series to compare it to. But I think Smash is gameplay wise. I'm speaking mainly about gameplay. I think gameplay wise, Smash is at that point where like it knows what it is.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the Ultimate, I feel like especially is like the culmination of like gameplay wise. I think it takes all the best not all the best aspects, but it takes a little from all of the previous Smash games and tries to put it into one, you know, of like, okay, like gameplay wise, this is like, you know, it feels heavy enough to be like, you know, okay, Melee was like, it has that little bit of heaviness that Melee had. One air dodge, footstooling is still a thing. There's a little bit of rage from Smash Wii U. You know, it's like a little bit of everything, right? I think they should follow up though, because I think Smash still has a very hugely missed opportunity in like the single player department. Like, and this is coming from someone from the FGC who like is I come from like, I have a tournament background, and like I'm gonna be that guy who like I play single player once, and then my competitive hours are gonna be like way higher, right? So I know that like single player is not that important in fighting games, but for Smash in particular, I feel like there's so much potential for like just this ultimate, no pun intended, this ultimate like video game experience of like, yo, I still think about Melee's adventure mode and how like you would go through Mario's world, you would go through the Metroid world, and you know, fight it. I was like, oh, what if they expanded on that? But like, I feel like now, ever since Melee, or let me say ever since, because I feel like Brawl kind of had that, but it was missing the worlds you were going through were very like generic. They weren't like themed after the characters in the game. But they still did have the cutscenes and the personality and stuff like that. But I don't know. I still feel like there's more they could do in terms of that, you know. But gameplay wise, I'm not sure where they can go from here.
Got it.
I'm not sure. Like, and I'm not sure if the investment in trying to make Smash Ultimate anything beyond, well, Smash, not just Smash Ultimate, but Smash in general, making it anything beyond what it is now is worth it. Because like, if you look at, I'm sure they're looking at the data and they see what people are mostly playing Smash for. You know, most people aren't.
They're not playing that long
Yeah, they're not. Most people aren't doing that. You know, again, this is that thing I struggle with of like what people say they want. I talk about this a lot, man. Like what people say they want versus like the reality of what's actually happening. You know, like people can talk all day about like, yeah, we want more single player content in fighting games, like da da da. But the people supporting fighting games the most are the competitive folks. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, not necessarily supporting it the most, but they're the ones who are going to like be the most passionate about, you know, whatever game we're talking about, right? So no. What were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say I just feel like the top 3 games that have story modes that like are interesting. They're not the best, but the most interesting, like Street Fighter, Tekken, and Mortal Kombat.
No, yeah. I feel like Mortal Kombat especially. I heard they're doing I hate Mortal Kombat's aesthetic, but like what they're doing in terms of like content, is just a level beyond like what other fighting games are doing right now. But that goes back to what I'm saying though, right? Like most people who play that content in Mortal Kombat, they're not playing it right now. They're not playing Mortal Kombat right now. Like they played it that first week, got through the story mode, and then they're like, oh, okay, that's enough for me, you know, and I'm good. I enjoy that. And then they just move on with their lives. Versus the people who are going to keep spreading the word about the game, those aren't the people who care about the single player mode. You get what I'm saying? So it's like a weird battle. It's a weird balance. And I'm not even saying I have the answers about what they should do, but like, it's just weird thing. It's just things to think about, you know?
Nah, I definitely feel you because it's like I'm in that same, like I said, I'm in that same boat when it comes to like fighting games, and it's, you really don't play fighting games for the first player mode, like other than Street Fighter, and in these days, you know, Smash does it, but like a lot of these fighting games now, they give you the whole roster.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, they should. I, as old school as I am, they should do that. Just because, like,
I like the unlocking them.
No, I like it. I love the unlocking. You know, they didn't give you the whole roster in Ultimate.
Yeah, that's what I said. In Smash Ultimate, they did.
Yeah. In Ultimate, I enjoyed going through all that. That was fun. It was cool. Yeah. But I mean, just for when you really think about like just quality of life type stuff, right? Like generally the average person doesn't like doing that. You remember? Yeah. Do you remember that first week when Ultimate was out?
Man, I had all my characters out the very next day. I had everybody.
Yeah. And also a lot of people were complaining about like, man, it's taking so long. I just want to have all the characters, like, and eventually they're not even like enjoying what they're doing. They're just trying to find cheap. Like I remember there was some kind of hack where like you could go to the home menu on the Switch screen, and then like after, yeah, I forgot what it was, but it was some weird thing, and people just ended up doing that, and it was like it's just about the reality of things, you know. I'm one of those people that like I can enjoy something, but still acknowledge that like, okay, but the investment to satisfy me might not be enough for these people to go out of their way to do this, because I'm not the person that's gonna, I'm just satisfying me might not be worth the return on investment, because there aren't enough people like me. You get what I'm saying? Like there aren't enough people that care about that type of thing, you know, for y'all to bother with it. But
nah,
yeah. You think they're gonna make another Smash?
I have a feel because it's Nintendo, they might, if this keeps on bringing them money, and it's like, because they did financially well with the first DLC pack, and they do really well with the next DLC pack, which is going to stretch into 2021. I see them possibly coming out with another DLC pack if this one does really well, and then just supplementing this era of Smash with a whole bunch of DLC packs. And then if a new Switch comes out, let's say 2024 or 2023, then there's a good chance then around that time we'll get a new Smash Brothers, and they'll probably have the entire roster again, which I don't know, because I feel like it's getting to a point where I'm noticing these DLC characters are way more intricate than the base characters. Like Terry Bogard is not just a button input character. Who else? Piranha Plant is a different character in his own right. Joker is a different character, and he's just not someone that has a reflector. He's the first person who can reflect and like eat damage then reflect.
It feels like they're playing. It feels like the characters are playing their own game and not necessarily Smash. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. But also, yeah, I talked about that before on Twitter, I think, where you can almost tell when a Smash character was introduced to Smash, to the series, based on that, like how they play.
Exactly.
You know, like you can tell what game they came into Smash on.
And you can tell, you can definitely tell that with Cloud and Bayonetta. You could seriously tell that with Cloud, and even Corrin. Yeah. Even Corrin too.
Yeah, like it's a lot of like, you know, Sakurai's going through phases. You know, like each character reflects where he was at that time in his life. You know, like an album.
But I'm gonna ask you one last question. This is more so for just for other just content creators, because we talked a lot about content creation. We talked a lot about video games, and I actually want to be able to. I want to ask you, what is your advice for up and coming content creators? Because there are a lot of people who start watching these, and I want to ask that question to anyone that's a guest on this show. So, what is your advice for anyone who is who wants to create content, whether that be a musician or producer or someone who sells their own content? They're doing like physical art, like painting or drawing. What would you suggest?
Well, what would I suggest? Research. You know, like there's so much information out there, like as far as like learning how to do things, and I feel like not enough people are patient enough to take the time out to learn about those things, right? Like research, and don't be afraid of like, because we were talking, I think we were talking either off air or while recording, that, like, you know, there's a lot of adaptation that happens like while being an artist. Like there's a lot of evolution and like changes we got to go through, and like I feel like a lot of people aren't willing to like
pivot.
Yeah, pivot. Yeah, that's a good word. Like they're not willing to pivot or like learn or adapt, you know what I mean? And not only, I'm not even just talking about like learning or adapting with the times, but learning and adapting with yourself. Like we were talking
about it.
Yeah, we were talking before about like how like people have dreams, right? And then like they're not flexible with those dreams, you know what I'm saying? Like you can have a dream, and then like if you learn new information that you think is beneficial to like your life or like your purpose, don't be afraid to shift your dream a little bit to like do what works for you, you know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah, I think a lot of people get too tunnel vision and stuck on like what they thought would work or what they thought they wanted to be or what they thought they wanted to do, and they don't just like allow life to happen and like help them adapt and like shift their dreams until it works for them. So like, yeah, like just be willing to like learn, adapt, and evolve, because like that's how you're gonna keep moving forward, you know, is like just like letting yourself be free and letting yourself be like water, you know what I mean? And like
that's that Bruce Lee reference.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like be like water. Like you see how the river goes? Like it keeps moving because it's flexible enough to do so. Like it's fluid enough to do so. You know, if you're not fluid with your dreams or with your vision or with like your skill set, then like it's harder to move forward. So yeah.
I'm glad you touched on that, because it's like, just to compliment what you said, for those of you who are watching, self-awareness is key. Like, you really have to understand who you are, what your purpose is, and then you have to commit to that purpose. And many times, in fact, almost everyone that I've come across, when they walk in line with their purpose, it's not the popular thing to do.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, when you walk into your purpose, that joint is hard. It is. It challenges you. And I have a saying that I started to live by: purpose over profit. You know, I'd rather walk in my purpose than profit off something that is not purposeful for me. Because I developed a mindset of, I can always make money. I've developed skill sets that can make me money. I can always make money.
Yes.
So it's not about just making money. It's about doing what is going to be fulfilling purpose wise.
That's a whole nother conversation. Like I know we got to go, but like, yo, like I don't think people realize how easy it is to get money. Like money is such like, if you just got to do a little bit of research, a little bit of work, and you can get money. Like that's not an issue. That's not an issue. The issue is, and this is a bonus advice I'd give to people, is like,
go for it. You be the first one to get bonus.
No, bonus advice is like, doing what's fulfilling to you is important, because that's the only way you're gonna keep going. Like a lot of people lose steam because they don't really care about what they're doing.
Bingo.
Or they don't really like what they're doing, or what they're doing isn't in line with who they are or their purpose. So eventually they can't do it for a long period of time. Like they eventually end up. I was just listening to this podcast today. This girl was talking about like she got a master's in accounting, bro. And she was an auditor and everything, but she was so bored of it and she didn't like it that she just ended up stopping. She ended up stopping and like driving Uber and trying to find something else to do. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's about like what's fulfilling to you. That's the only thing you're going to be able to do for a long period of time. Money comes and goes, you know? So like,
This is the
Focus
long
on.
game.
You said what?
I said it's the long game. You gotta look at the long game of life.
Yes. Yeah.
That's why, and I know we said we gotta go, but it's just to add. That's why you guys see that I'm not focusing on making gaming content anymore. I consider the long game. It's don't get me wrong. I love playing video games, but I looked at myself in the mirror and said, "Can I do this for the next 10 years?" And I got an immediate no.
Yep.
That's a humbling place. You can either take that and be stubborn and do what you want to do anyway because you feel like you can financially benefit now, or you could recalibrate your steps. I was watching a podcast today myself. In fact, Curtis King, he was talking about this book called The 1% Rule by Tommy Baker, which I'm going to buy this book soon because the principle of the 1% rule is so powerful, and it's commit 1% to your purpose and your goals each and every day. Just at least 1%. And if you consider the long game of things, in the course of a year, you would have grown 365%. No one thinks about it like that.
Yeah.
That is something that I feel as though if more people were more, like as you said, patient and willing to wait, then they will see that the bigger picture is you are called to do so much more. And that's why I've been separating myself from different things. I don't comment so much on the video game aspects of things no more. I was speaking about it with a few of my gaming friends. I said, yo, I got the word direct muted on my timeline because I just don't care.
I'm very close to that. I still care about I still care about directs, but like I am tired, man.
If it comes, it comes for me. It's like I'll watch it. If it comes,
Yeah.
I'll be up and I'll watch it. But I look at it like this. It's like if I decided to buy a video game next month, there's Animal Crossing. I know I'm going to buy Final Fantasy VII Remake. I know I'm going to buy Trials of Mana. And I know if that leak is true for Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, for the next 3 months, I'm set for games. Not to mention I have DBZ Kakarot installed on my computer, which I got to finish. Not to mention I'm an active PSO Phantasy Star Online 2 player.
Oh yeah, we about to mob on that one.
So I'm like, I'm good with video games. I got a backlog of games I gotta finish. I still gotta beat Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torna. I still gotta beat The Messenger. I still have to beat Shovel Knight, which I downloaded a long time ago when I first got my Switch. I still gotta beat I Am Setsuna. I have such a backlog of video games. My whole thing is a spoiled mentality to get mad about games to be advertised, and I still have games I haven't beaten yet. That's
No, yeah, it's that's I don't even want to talk about it. I'm really tired of.
Yeah, I get it. That was supposed to be advice for you guys. I didn't mean to go off on a rant. I'm sorry. I respect you guys' time. So for those of you who are listening, this is just the heart of a show. Sometimes we're just casually talking at this point. So I want to just thank you. Like GK, we could discuss that more and more and everything. Let's close out because I see how we could easily go into a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
let's wrap this up, guys. Make sure you are following GK. His information is down below, both his Twitter accounts as well as his store. Make sure you are following this man. On his store, you can customize your controllers, Nintendo Switch Pro controllers and Joy-Cons, whether the ones that he already has displayed, or you can customize your own, as well as his music is on there as well. So make sure you go ahead and check them out. So
100.
Thank you guys for coming out. If you guys like this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and most of all, you make sure you share this with a friend. This is Avedon and GK, and we are out. Peace.